Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. This is the Lambent Knits knitting vlog podcast. You know what it is. It's a place to chat about knitting, which I love. You can hear my cat Sandy in the background. It is 4:45 p.m. His dinner is at 5, but he thinks it's at 3. His dinner's at 6, but he thinks it's at 3. So he's been yelling for the last few hours. He is not being neglected. He is in a very cozy room with a window that he can sit in and stalk the bunny who lives in the backyard. So, don't feel too bad for him. It has been a long time since my last episode, and so I have finished, I think, every whip that I had last time, and also a whip that I didn't have last time. And then I have just 2 things on my needles right now that I would like to show you. And I have some plans. I have a new haircut. It feels good for most of my hair to be gone. It's been hot here a few more times. More recently it's been what I would expect from a Seattle summer and what I have always loved about Seattle summer, and it's been like between 70 and 80 degrees and partly cloudy. So appreciating that. We still have not had any rain to speak of in months, really. The grass is brown, the trees are not looking too happy, our rose bush is dead. Yeah, not good. Not good for the plants or the animals. Anyway, I'm a little tired. This is actually the first day that I've had where I haven't done any work for either of my jobs in the entire month of August. So I'm feeling very relieved to have this break for my nervous system, and to be able to share some things with you. So, I'll start with what I'm wearing, which is also one of my FOs. Allow me just to scoot back. This is another Me Oh My tee, designed by Park and Knit or Park Williams. I modified it. So the original was made with like a sport weight cotton yarn. This is a purportedly sport weight linen yarn, but it's heavier, but it's more like, I would say, in terms of its like fiber width, like fingering weight. So this turned out a little sheer. I'm not mad about it. I love this color. It's BC Garn Lino in magenta. And this has been through the washer and dryer a few times. I'm washing it normal, drying it on the delicate cycle. And it actually has been through some surgery. So the original design, and it's a paid pattern, but this isn't giving anything away because it's part of the pattern description. It's bottom up, and when you cast on, you just cast on in stockinette and just keep going straight up. No decreases, and no ribbing, so it kind of curls a little bit, and it gives this effect of like a t-shirt that's been cut, essentially. So I did that, and with the linen, it created, the drape is just different than cotton would be, so it created like this kind of bell shape. which I didn't love. And I also had knit it a little bit longer than I often do because this summer I've had the experience a few times of knitting something shorter than I would have liked it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to err on the other side and I'm going to knit longer. But it was like down to here and it was belling and I didn't really love that. So I put in a lifeline like a few inches up, and I unraveled some. I think I reclaimed about 16 grams of yarn. I have a yarn scale and I weigh everything, and it's because I'm a Virgo that I like that so much, but I really do like it. More about that later. Anyway, so I worked my way down and I was like, oh, how do I get rid of this bell effect? And I was going to do some decreases, but then I was like, oh, I don't think that's going to quite create the right effect either. So what I decided to do instead was to continue to knit just like straight down, but to finish it with an I-cord bind off. So that's what I did. Here's that bit a little bit closer up. And I love how it turned out. I think I think it kind of like mimics the original, even though it's not the same as the original. So I-cord bind off takes a really long time, but it is very satisfying. Excuse me while I just scoot myself back in here. Okay, so that is my first finished object. And I had this on my needles for a while the last time I recorded, and I had kind of been like dragging my feet on it, and then I just powered through and finished it in like 2 or 3 days once I actually started working on it. I also finished my Flaum cardigan. Excuse me while I make this wardrobe change. This is a design by Justyna Lorkowska, Polish designer, I believe, and I've actually knit one of these before, and I spoke about this before, but I didn't, it was one of the first garments that I made, and I did not swatch, so if it's okay, but it's not super comfortable. It's kind of like tight through the shoulders and the back, and I also knit with like a completely different yarn weight and stitch than was recommended, and it's also kind of I don't know, it's a color scheme that doesn't match that much, so I wanted to make it again more of like a neutral color scheme, and yes, I did make the pockets neon. I have been toying with the concept that neon might be a neutral, as Stephen West would claim. And this beautiful blue from Malabrigo. Both of these are just like Malabrigo worsted. Yeah, so I love how this turned out. It's super thick and cozy. It's kind of long. It's parts of it are just 1x1 rib, and parts of it are fisherman's rib, so it took forever. I'll show you this. So these pockets, oh gosh, that glare is not great. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Having pockets in a contrast color was my idea. I just have one skein of this fluo, and I have been trying to figure out what to do with it. So I figured out that the construction would allow for me to do a contrast color pocket like pretty easily, and this is actually like only the second time I've done intarsia for anything. I have made 2 tops in the past that had like a mohair intarsia section, the As If tee, and that's by Knit and Crochet, and her name is Shay something, and I don't remember her last name, very rudely. And what else? Oh yeah, the Very V-neck. Is that even what it's called? God, I think so. I think it's the Very V-neck sweater by Jessie May, not the Very V-neck raglan. Sheer V. It's the Sheer V sweater. And that is also has like a mohair intarsia like piece to it, and it credits that Knit and Crochet design in the pattern. So, anyway, blah, 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 blah. Looking at this, next to this, like, also very bright magenta color, I'm realizing that it's not really so neutral, even the blue, but it will go with a lot of things because it's a solid color, and blue goes with a lot of things, and I wear a lot of, like, black and gray, so I think it'll be good. Yeah, so that's that. Finished that. Ooh, that was like a war trying to get this out of the bedroom with the cat in there as well. Okay, I also finished my Starflanket, which is, oh, so beautiful. Just to give a sense of what's happening here, this is definitely a large enough blanket for like a couch throw for an adult person, and I stopped with the pattern several sections before it was done. So this is an enormous pattern. This is going to a family with a toddler and a brand new baby, and I figure they can do whatever they want with it, and it can be like a play mat, or it can be like a stroller blanket, although it actually is like kind of gigantic to be a stroller blanket, or it can be like a couch throw, or whatever they want. But just look how beautiful. Just extremely happy with how this turned out, and I love this stripe of neon pink, and I wish I had had enough neon pink to do something more with it. This is like a mystery acrylic skein that I have from 1,000 years ago, when I was first starting to kind of experiment with knitting more, and would visit Michael's and peruse their yarn section when I was waiting for the bus for 30 minutes in Minnesota in the middle of the winter. And so I have fond memories associated with that yarn. I explained what the rest of this is before. This is like tons and tons of scraps, mostly cotton and linen, some superwash. There's like a cotton silk blend in here. There's some acrylic in here. It's all machine washable. And I did machine wash and dry it. And that worked great, and it did like become even softer. The only thing that happened that I wasn't thrilled with is that it produced like just a tremendous amount of lint, which is not just stuck in the dryer, because that's not like a huge deal, but it is stuck to the actual object itself. So it's been kind of a pain in the ass to pick out the lint, and I have not completely picked it out yet. but when I do, probably by this Friday, I will be giving it to its recipient, and I hope that they really like it. And I have one more FO. This was not even on my needles yet the last time that I recorded. I whipped this out in like a pretty short period of time, maybe 8 or 9 days, not all of which I spent knitting on this, but oh boy, can we talk about elegance for a second? So this is another beauty school top. I have a sleeveless one in James Makes yarn in this beautiful, like, vibrant, like pale green, and then it's kind of faded into this like purpley green variegated color. I wanted one with cap sleeves, which I have done. I am very fond of the mock turtleneck, which I've done again. And I kind of bought this yarn with the idea that it might become a beauty school top one day. So this is Ancestral Fiber Co. The colorway is called Madiba. It was like a special colorway that came out during, I think, during Black History Month, and it was like to honor Nelson Mandela, who also has been called Madiba. And I know that you're supposed to alternate skeins with hand-dyed yarn, and I have indeed experienced pooling when I have not done that in the past, and I haven't always loved the way that it looked. I chose not to alternate skeins here because I don't know, I wanted to go fast. I guess that's what it boils down to. But I did, like when this is a top-down kind of thing. So when I started at the top, and when the first skein was starting to end, I did like fade in and alternate the skeins for a few inches, like right around this area, where you start to see some of this striation. And I'm really glad that I did that, because these skeins actually are quite different. And I love how both of them kind of pooled. So the top one is more kind of generally even in color, but it has all of these little light spots. I feel like kind of look like stars or raindrops or something. I just really love how that looks. And then the bottom is more, there was a lot more kind of like light gray in the second skein that I worked in, and it has all these striations, and it kind of looks like, I don't know, like rock. So I love it. And the sleeves were in the second skein, so they are also more striated. And these are short row sleeve caps. Gonna sit down again. So I'm super proud of this garment, partly because so I really wanted to use this yarn. I swatched. I really loved the fabric that I got, and the gauge was like pretty significantly off from the gauge that the pattern called for. And I was a little bit worried about running out of yarn, although I didn't in the end, but I was worried about that. And so I didn't want to make a second swatch because I swatched in the round, but the way where you just like create a bunch of floats on the back. And so I didn't, you can't reuse your yarn very easily if you do that kind of swatching, because you like cut up the back and then it's just tons of like little tiny pieces of yarn. Anyway, I didn't want to re-swatch. I really liked the fabric that I got, so I decided just to run with it and to do a bunch of math so that I could modify it to fit me well, and I was able to do that. And the math took me many hours, and it was kind of fun. I always liked math. And I'm really satisfied with the results. I'm really proud of myself. I've done that before with patterns that are like pretty simple and where I like either the stitch or the row gauge is accurate and I just have to adjust for the other one. But this was a whole different story because both of them were way off, and there's tons of shaping in this top. The sleeves have a lot of shaping involved. There's a lot of shaping in like the neck and shoulder area, and then there's some like decreases going down. So yes, yes, I'm very pleased. Extremely pleased, in fact. So those are my finished objects. I have to say that it feels like a relief. It feels like a relief to have finished them. And I've learned a bunch in the process of doing all of these things. So particularly doing all the math with this one, and then having the confidence to do some surgery on the other one, because I wouldn't have worn it very much the way that it was before. So it feels pretty empowering to have, like, you know, taken the time to rethink things and create the garment that I really wanted. And that's one of the things that I really love about knitting, is that I'm like always learning these lessons. The other thing that I'm super proud of is that I like didn't row out doing these sleeves in Magic Loop, and that has honestly never happened for me before. Like, I've been getting better about that, and I've been getting better. You know, I've read a lot about why that happens, and I've done some work to like adjust my tension, but it still seems to happen all the time. And I'm lucky that the last few garments that I've made where I've had to do sleeves in Magic Loop, it's just kind of like self-corrected after I blocked it, or it might be obvious to me if I'm like rubbing my sleeve, but it's not visually obvious. So it's worked out okay, but it is a constant struggle for me that I would really love to not have anymore. So something that I figured out, some garment recently, it might have been the Flaum, actually, I realized, like, oh, if I'm doing sleeves in Magic Loop, I really need to be using a really long circular so that there's less like tension on the edges of that sleeve that are kind of on the looping part of the needle and then on the end of the needle. So I figured that out, and so I did that with this. I used like my 40-inch circular to make these sleeves, which I think ultimately are, I don't know, I think this is like an 11-inch bicep or something. There's a little bit of negative ease in the bicep. But the other thing that I figured out is that it takes a little bit longer, but it felt really worthwhile to me to kind of just like swoop everything around on the needle so that when I got to one of the edges, I was I was just knitting like in the round in a normal fashion, and I wasn't like trying to like pull the stitches closer together. I don't know if that made any sense. Definitely, probably would not make any sense to somebody who has not had this trouble knitting sleeves in Magic Loop, and it's been kind of frustrating for me, not only because it's like a problem that I continuously have, but also because a lot of the more famous knitters who do kind of like advice kind of things have said like, oh my god, I don't even remember how I corrected that. Like, it's been so many years since I've had that problem. Or they'll say, oh, you just have to like correct your tension. It feels like I've been trying to correct my tension and it's not quite doing it. And this other way that I now am doing it, which basically just like takes the pressure off of those areas where you're making the loop, is super time consuming, and right now it feels worth it to me because it's like another one of those lessons in patience, which I have all the time in knitting. And I love that. The other thing that I learned with this pattern the first time that I knit it, and that has been such a boon to me since, is that I do have a tendency to bind off pretty tightly. And I don't always love how stretchy bind-offs look. Sometimes I like it, but not really consistently. So Amy Apple of Poison Girls, whose pattern this is, recommends binding off with a needle a few sizes larger than the needle that you have the work on. And that way you don't have to like think about maintaining a loose tension if the instruction is to bind off loosely, and it's like a normal bind off in rib or in stockinette, and so you don't have to worry about the stretchy bind off, which is easy, but like I said, sometimes I think it looks a little messy, and that might just be the way that I do it, because I have not noticed that I think it looks messy when other people do it. But I don't love it. But this has been like such a magical discovery for me, and it's the way that I always bind off at necklines and sleeves and hems now, to just make sure that I'm not doing anything too tight, and it is such a good method, and I highly recommend it for anybody. Very chatty today. So I'm gonna move on to my two little whips. One of them is actually not little at all, or won't be little at all. I was talking about my plan for this the last time that I recorded, but I have started my Lisse Jacket. Pattern is by Kindred Red, Amalia, and it was in the spring pom-pom quarterly, like quilt-inspired issue. So basically it's like a modularly knit kind of, you have the option of doing a collar or a hood, and I'm going to do a hood jacket, and it's you just pick a bunch of colors, and then you do these like striped squares with all your different colors, and the squares are double knit, and it's supposed to be reversible, so like this back side is supposed to kind of mimic like quilt batting, and man, if only texture could really transmit through the camera. This is just so soft and fuzzy, and it's an alpaca boucle yarn from Knit Picks, and then this is like worsted weight hand-dyed yarn from Miniville Craft Co., something like that, Canadian hand dyer, and I got like 7 colors of this, and I have like more of this than of the other colors. This is like the highest contrast, and the rest of them are kind of like a little bit more neutral like these others. So I'm super excited about it. This has been, I have had some issues. I'm feeling good about it now, but I am also resigning myself to the fact that this is not going to be finished for at least 2 months, maybe more, unless I like really motivate. And that should be okay. That'll be, what, early November? Maybe we won't have that rainy of a winter again. I don't know. Who knows? But if we have a seriously rainy winter, I'm not going to be able to wear this year. So anyway, this little double knit square took me about 3 hours to knit. Maybe a little bit less than that. And there were like 50 something squares. You do, I mean, you know, you're knitting them together as you go, so you're not having to like go back and spend like many hours weaving in all your ends at the same time. Because it's double knit, you don't even have to like weave in your ends per se. Like I went back and I did, I think I am going to like weave in my ends each square, because that will feel good to me. But you don't even, because it's double knit, you don't even actually have to like do any weaving. You just kind of take the needle and you just like shove them in there, because it's a pocket essentially. So yeah, anyway, this is going to take me at least 150 hours, probably more like 175 hours if I'm not slacking. So that's a really significant time suck. I also, so I swatched for this. I was like, oh cool, I figured out that like I would need to like size down a needle size in order to get like to the measurements that I wanted. And then I knit a whole square and I was like, man, this seems enormous. And I was like, oh, maybe I just need to block it again and like it'll shrink down, because why would my swatch be off? Well, it did shrink down some when I blocked it, but it still, after the blocking and the shrinking, was about 1.5 inches wider and taller than the square was supposed to be. So I'm still not sure why that happened, but I was extremely frustrated in the aftermath of that and put this down for a really long time and didn't cast it on again, and was trying to figure out like, oh, am I going to re-swatch or what am I going to do? What I decided to do is just size down the needles again. So the recommendation is to knit these on a US 6, and I'm knitting them on a US 4, and the size seems to be like pretty close to what it is supposed to be. I've looked at a lot of project pages for people who have like done these already, or have them in progress, and there are a lot of people who have, you know, have not been trying super hard to do everything like exactly to the measurements in the pattern, and still have had a result that is nice. So I am trying to do like the measurements for a size 3. A size 2 would also fit me. It would just be a little bit harder to layer something underneath, but then I was like, do I really want to layer a sweater or something heavy under double knit alpaca and wool anyway? And I think the answer is no. So I went down 2 needle sizes, and I'm also knitting the size 2 instead of the size 3. And I think that that should make it be the size and fit that I want. And if I get closer to like when I'm constructing the sleeves and stuff and that seems really off, then I will reassess. And man, that would be a real bummer. But we're not going there yet. The other thing, so when I was picking yarn for this, I was trying to be really thoughtful about like, so this is a project that's taking a tremendous amount of time, and it's going to be really large, and it's probably going to like last for a long time. So what does the color scheme need to be so that it's something that I continue to love and want to be wearing all the time when it's climate appropriate for years to come? So that's what led me to pick all of these kind of like lighter like speckled colors and grays, and I know that I love this pink, and in fact it is very similar to the pink of the linen shirt that I was wearing at the beginning of the episode, and so I think it'll be good. I think I've chosen well, but maybe I keep going and I'm like, oh my god, I hate this, and then I have to give it away. And I do like giving away my knitting, actually, when I'm not wearing it. It feels good to do that, and especially if I can like rehome it with people that I know and who I might, see wearing those things at some point. That's cool. But this might just be a project that's a bunch of lessons in frustration. I don't know. But I have made it this far in the last 2 days and been very pleased with myself. So, that's great. That's one of my whips. The other one, this, which I just cast on today. And yes, I am, in fact, having a gray phase. I just have so much black clothing, and I have a cat who is light in color, and it is really hard to get his fur off of my black clothing. So I'm branching into gray because it's like slightly easier to disguise that. I just cast this on today, and you can't tell what it is at all, but you can see what the yarn looks like at least. This is Arcania Huasco, which is a 100% merino wool superwash yarn, fingering weight. I purchased a lot of it, and actually the website that I purchased it from did not mention that it was superwash. So I was kind of disappointed to learn that. There's a time and a place for superwash, and I really like it sometimes, but I've been trying to move away from superwash a little bit, partly because like I just think that the way that animal fibers that are not treated in that way transform when they're blocked is so cool, and superwash does some things when it is blocked that I don't necessarily prefer. Like I feel like I have to do a lot more modifying in a pattern in order to make it work with superwash. But whatever. It's superwash. I didn't know that ahead of time. I received it. Now I know. It's still really nice yarn, and I really like this like subtle variegation in the gray. There's more like charcoal and then like a lighter gray. And I am alternating skeins for this because I thought, why not follow the rules for once? This is a pretty simple cardigan, designed to be worn open. It's a simple raglan top, and then there's this like really beautiful lace section at the bottom. It's the Ochre Cardigan by Amba O'Brien, and I'll stick a little picture of it up here. I feel like it's just something that I really need in my wardrobe. Like, I just don't have a really simple cardigan right now, and now I have this Flaum, but my issue with my other Flaum, which I think is going to even be like more of an issue with this Flaum, is it's really warm, and like it's not that cold here. I mean, it's cold in my house, so I can wear those things in my house. But at my workplaces, it's not so cold that it is even remotely practical to be wearing like a heavy wool sweater. So this will be a light wool sweater, and I think it will be just perfect to throw on over, whatever else. And I'm really excited for it, and I've already knit a few inches, even though I just started today. So, yeah, I think that'll be good. I wonder even if it might go kind of fast. So I talked about this before, that like last time I was working on a bunch of things concurrently, and I was moving really slowly on all of them. So that Mio Mighty and the Flaum and the blanket, and then actually no, I just knit this as like a palette cleanser because I knew it would go pretty fast after I finished all of those things. But anyway, I usually don't have 3 or more whips going at once. I usually just have 2. One design that's more like simple and more portable, and then one that's more complicated or larger, or both. So now I'm back in that zone, and I actually have to say I'm kind of feeling like maybe I should take on a 3rd again. I don't know. I do have a plan for my next project. I am really loving having all of these like knit t-shirt, sweater sort of situations, and it's also really satisfying actually to make a fingering weight project that is knit, because when it's a t-shirt it goes like pretty fast actually, for me anyway. So I have some yarn. This is my, everybody cheer for me, this is my only acquisition since the last time I actually, I hadn't even had any acquisitions for a while before the last time I recorded. I just like showed a bunch of stuff that I got earlier. So really, I purchased this yarn in July, I believe. End of July? No, actually August. I purchased this yarn this month in August. I didn't purchase any yarn in July. That's new. And it's Ancestral Fiber Co. again. Isn't it just like beautiful? Check that out. So beautiful. And I think it's, flattering color for me too. So, Ancestral Fiber Co. was having a sale. I'm on their mailing list, and they opened the sale to the mailing list like before the general public. This yarn is hers, and I just loved working with it. I really did. So I got this. This is superwash. After I like badmouth superwash for a while, that's okay. I'm happy. I'm happy to work with it as superwash. It is the Ancestral Merino Fingering. It's 437 yards to 100 grams. So this actually could even be kind of a sweater quantity almost for me, like a 3/4 sleeve sweater quantity where I have the collar and cuffs as a different color. But I mentioned, I think previously, that I tragically shrank my brown So Summer shirt to the point that it is like completely unwearable. It's not a wearable garment for me anymore. I'm pretty devastated by that. I was like super into that color, and you know, I talked a bunch about how like I don't wear brown, and I found this brown that was perfect for me. So maybe I will, yeah, maybe I'll get that colorway again. I make something that's that brown again. But in the meantime, I really wanted to have a So Summer shirt again because I wore that like almost every day until I shrank it so much that I couldn't wear it anymore. Even if a knit says that it's machine washable and dryable, do not dry it on hot, folks. That is what happened to that shirt. So, not going to do that again. And I don't know. Anyway, so this is going to be another So Summer shirt. I'm really stoked about making that. And I haven't caked this up yet, obviously, but I'm thinking that maybe, depending how I feel like my pacing is going with these other whips, I might like throw this into the mix too. We'll see. TBD. Anyway, I think that is all for today. Oh, I did want to say, this is a one-of-a-kind colorway called Water. So, it's all mine. No one else can have it. Ade makes really beautiful blues often, though, so I wouldn't sweat it too much. I really love her yarn. Highly recommend. Anyway, that's that. In terms of plans, besides that, I still have to make my So Summer shorts for my partner out of that like cantaloupe Holstgarn coast, and I'm just going to have to do a lot of math to adapt that pattern again, so I've kind of been avoiding that, but I actually think that having just done that with this shirt and had it turn out so well has maybe like given me the motivation that I need to embark on that project. They're going to knit up pretty fast once I actually like get my butt in gear to do that. And now the summer's almost over, so it's kind of like, do I even bother? But it's a present, and he's excited about it, and I'm excited to make it for him, so I'll do it someday, soon. And the other plan that I kind of have, that I'm sort of like yearning to start, I guess you could say, is yet another Cozy Classic Light, long-sleeved this time, with some Brujeria Lana Mage base, which is like a fingering weight non-superwash yarn, in the colorway Queen of the Damned, which is like the rich, like blood red of my dreams. So I've been daydreaming about like making that sweater with that yarn for a really long time, and so now that it's getting a little chillier, maybe I need to manifest that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, if you watched. I'm actually going to go feed the cat now. He'll be really happy about that. And I don't know when I'll be back. When I have a bunch to talk about again, I think. Okay. Good night.